I was a fairly quiet child, very quiet child. I never used to cause much trouble. I didn't really have much friends and I was a bit of a loner. I was a bit of a geek. I was always into video games and I used to program a ZX Spectrum. Um, my dad and mum used to do electronics and I was very interested in that. They're also into amateur radio, and again that's something I was very fascinated by. I was fascinated by all the equipment they had. I had a lot of strange interests as well, one of which was UK street signs. I used to spend hours just looking at street signs in the back of the road atlas and wondering where have I seen that one and what's this one mean, and I bet that's a rare one, and things like that. Very strange. And pylons. Now pylons are a part of everyday life. We see them every day of our life. They are very important to our society, yet they very rarely get much attention. But I become fascinated by them, by the design, the different types, and the sounds they make when it's raining, that humming noise, and also the light that shines off the insulators in different sunlight. I just find the whole structure fascinating, and yeah, I like them. Very strange, but that's me, very strange. I could give you some other examples. I didn't really have many friends when I was growing up. There was one main friend I had that used to live up the road. Our parents were friends and we became good friends. So I used to spend a lot of time with her. Most of the time we used to spend outside, quite often playing in a culvert nearby at the bottom of the garden. Again, very strange. Most boys my age were out playing football or cycling or something like that. Not me. I was playing in a culvert, which is strange for in the 80s, I guess. We used to go roller skating around the streets. We used to collect rubbers, things like that. But that was pretty much everything that I used to do. My mum and dad used to try and get me to get involved with clubs and things. They used to one thing was they made me go horse riding, which I hated and refused to go back after one day a horse ran off with me over the field and I was terrified. I also was encouraged to join the Air Cadets, which again really wasn't right for me, and I left quite quickly. But that was quite a traumatic time, the Air Cadets, for some reason. Anyway, at school I was bullied quite a lot, which was because really I was overweight and I had a bowl cut hairdo, which is tragic, but there we go. So I was quite a target, and I was a loner, and they knew they could trigger me. And that's what I wanted to come on to next, actually, was the triggering. So although I was quite a quiet child, there was a lot going on in my head. There were thoughts and constant voices and constant internal narrative talking about what I was doing and what I was thinking. And I have a very strong sense of justice, for example. And going back to the bullies, on several occasions they pushed me too far, and I kind of saw the injustice in the situation and hit out. So one example was in front of a class when the teacher was fully aware of what was going on. I was being bullied, and I suddenly decided this wasn't fair and I'd had enough, and I punched this girl on the nose, and I gave her quite a bad nosebleed. So I got sent off to the headmaster, and that didn't go that well, and she got sent off to get her nose sorted out. But the thing was, it was kind of a pivotal moment, because it actually felt good, I'm ashamed to say, because I don't sanction any form of violence, but the fact that I was able to bring some justice to a situation where I saw injustice felt good. There was another occasion later on in secondary school where there's this girl that used to be quite unpleasant sometimes to people, and used to say, "I'll give you a smack in the mouth. I'll give you a smack in the mouth," in kind of a Cockney accent. And one day I'd had enough, and again, I didn't punch her in the face, but what I did was deliberately taunt her into punching me in the face. And up till that time, I'm not aware that anybody actually had that pleasure. So that was a first. And again, in some perverted way, that satisfied my sense of justice, because I knew I'd triggered her, and I had some influence over somebody else, and it kind of felt like I got to her, so that was justice for me. I didn't really have any other friends until sixth form, when we had a group of people that we were all very geeky. We used to like computers. We used to play with games on Commodore Amigas and exchange software and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, I got my GCSEs and my A-levels, fairly mediocre ones, but good enough to get to university. And I decided to go to Edinburgh, which was quite a long way from the south coast of England. And you may be wondering, well, why? Why did you do that? And the simple reason is I did it because nobody else was. And I wanted to be different and not follow the crowd. They were mostly going to local universities in sort of London and the home counties, but no, not much further. It was almost as if I was rebelling and doing something different just because I could. Anyway, I didn't really enjoy the university experience. But I did study brewing and distilling at university, which again is a bit unusual, and it certainly makes a good talking point at nights out. Ironically, I don't drink and haven't drunk for 3 years now, but that's by the by. Perhaps more about that another day. Anyway, I got my degree, 2-1, fairly respectable, and started work. And then I started working, I was doing admin work in a pharmaceutical factory, and I then soon got bored with that. It didn't interest me, so I was far more interested in the IT guys and IT support, so I used to kind of chase them around a bit and hang around with them and see what they did. But anyway, I blagged my way into an IT job after that, and that is the story of the rest of my career, really, was blagging my way from one job to the next, really without any qualifications, each one becoming more and more complicated and more difficult. That included running a data centre for a charity that had about 400 remote sites across the UK. That was cool, but I did it. I actually did it. And finally I ended up doing business relationship management at a large organisation. And that's actually, although it was quite different, it was IT, business relationship management, it was quite a different world, but it was much more me. It was much more about people than I am really the technology. Anyway, point is, as I've gone through my career, I've tried harder and harder and harder to fit in and to be who other people want me to be, to fit into that corporate world, to go to meetings, to write reports, to do project management, all the things that go on in the corporate world, and write documents and policies and procedures. And it became quite difficult, really. It did become quite difficult, mostly because I think I thought a lot of the things I were being asked to do were wrong. There was a better way of doing things, and I used to shout up and say, I don't think this is the right way of doing it. And of course, I don't often get shot down and told to go and sit in the corner and got to draw the party line, all this sort of stuff. Anyway, it all became a bit much. Well, it became far too much for me, and I had a breakdown, a mental breakdown last year at work, and it was quite a difficult time. I had to stop work. I was diagnosed with anxiety and treated for that, and as part of that I became interested in ADHD, by seeing people talking about it, talking about their experiences. There was one lady in particular from America that has got a channel called How to ADHD. You may have come across it, but she did a TEDx talk, and it was very emotional, and it all about her ADHD, and it kind of really got to me, and I knew this is what I have, this is what I am, and I needed to do something about it. So I asked the GP to refer me for a diagnosis. The diagnosis waiting list was about 3 years here, which, believe it or not, is actually quite good, because in some areas it's 7 years, which is absolutely shameful. I really wanted to return to work, and I don't think I felt I could do so until I had that question resolved. So I decided to go private. I was lucky enough to be able to go private, and I had the money to do it. So I did, and that's when I got my diagnosis of combined type. And again, like I say, it was an absolute life-changing moment. I don't see it as being diagnosed. I see it as having my ADHD illuminated, having discovered my ADHD, because it answers all the questions about why I was the way I was, why I constantly tried to please people, why I feared rejection, why I couldn't make decisions, why I was disorganized and untidy. It's all those questions now become clear, and ADHD is not something to be diagnosed in my view. It's not a disease, it's not a disorder. It is actually a way of thinking. It's a type of thinking. It's a slightly different wired brain that thinks logically in a different way to everybody else. And what I've discovered through all of this is that if you actually embrace that, understand how it works, it's a very, very powerful thing indeed. And you can use it to take more control of your life and be the person you are meant to be, and not be who society wants you to be, which is really what happens right now. Anyway, at that point I decided, I knew my calling in life was not IT. I'd done IT because I believed that it was stimulating, gave me dopamine hits. It was a challenge, and I knew how to do it, so I just carried on doing it. Throughout my career, I've had lots of personality type tests and all sorts of things that say, oh, you should be a coach, you should be a teacher, blah, 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 you're a people person. So where this led me really was to actually hyper-focus on ADHD. There's nothing I don't think I know about ADHD, everything from, what the physiological causes are in the brain, what the treatments are, the impact it has on people, what people can do at work, how access to work funding works, what benefits you can claim. You name it, I probably know the answer to any questions that you might have, and if I don't, I certainly will find it out. And I got interested in ADHD coaching, so I attended a training course from ADHD Works, which I've got a certificate from to prove that I am capable. And ADHD coaching really is about helping people understand their ADHD in the way I've just described, and turning it all around and using those strengths to actually take control of their life, instead of having their life controlled by ADHD and the expectations that other people place on you. So all the answers come from within. They really do, and it's about breaking down those norms and those assumptions. So that's why I set up Adaptive. You see what I did with the word ADHD, APTIVE. It's kind of a clever play on words. It's got all sorts of things like, it's not just adaptive. You can use adapted, you can use adaption. There's all sorts of things. Anyway, it's staying. I like it. It's cool. I also become passionate about neurodiversity in the workplace, and from experience from many organisations about how bad, not how bad, but how naive a lot of companies are about it, and how scared they are about neurodivergence and neurodiversity. They think it's a big scary thing and it's something to be frightened of, and it's really not. And in fact, if you embrace neurodivergence and welcome them into your community, into your culture, you've got some very powerful thinkers there. You have people that are good in a crisis. You have people that think outside the box, have new ideas, challenge things. There's many reasons why having neurodivergent people in your team is a really worthwhile thing to do. Not just for them, but for the organisation. So the second part of all this is that I am helping companies understand ADHD and neurodiversity as well as individuals. Anyway, this channel is really a supplementary thing to all of that. I feel I need to be an advocate for neurodiversity and to help people. And that's what this is about, really. So you'll find on here, a series of monologues like this one, which is just me rambling on, me being me. This is me, this is who I am. I don't care if you don't like it. It's me, and that's one thing I've learnt, is don't pretend to be somebody I'm not, because people don't like it. I'm also going to do a series of help and support and advice and tips, some funny things, some serious things, maybe share a bit of news, and a lot of education and awareness, and I hope it becomes a bit of fun and we can have a bit of interaction. It'll probably develop into something a bit more flashy when I get my head around video production, because I'm not a video producer, as you can probably tell. I really just wanted to get something on here to say hi everybody and welcome, and please support me. It would really make me feel validated if people supported me and said, hey, this is a good idea. If not, I'll just pack up and go home. Okay, so I think all that's left for me to say is if this kind of content is going to be of interest, please like and subscribe, as all the best YouTubers say, and I feel great that I've said that. And please have a look at my website, which is down there somewhere. There's all sorts of resources on there about ADHD neurodiversity. I have a blog. If you want to sign up for that, that's another way you can get my ramblings, all free of charge. There's a whole load on there about ADHD coaching, if that's something that anybody is interested in finding out more about. Please feel free to get in touch and ask any questions. Anyway, that's it from me. I think I've gone on for far long enough, and you probably have better things to do. So all that remains to be said is goodbye, and thank you very much for following me for this long, and I hope to see you again soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.